According to the Global Food Security Index released recently, food security fell in nearly 70% of the countries in Q1 of 2014. Where does Sub Sahara Africa fare, and particularly Kenya?
On the Global Food Security Index, it ranks 107 countries around the world on about 25 different criteria or components that lead to food security. And so, first of all, the magic isn't necessarily the score, but understanding the components and how a country, why they scored where they did, which then encourages everybody, private sector and government, to work on the right things. But to answer your question, Kenya scored 80 out of 170, or 107, excuse me. So globally, toward the low end. Many countries in Sub-Saharan Africa are in the same range. In fact, Kenya was among the better positions in Sub-Saharan Africa. But we are seeing improvements, and that's really our goal, is how can we use the index to focus discussion, create collaborations, and really encourage both governments and private sector and NGOs to be working together on the same things.
What are some of the agricultural reforms that African countries, particularly in Sub-Sahara Africa, that can adapt to enhance food security and also go hand in hand with increasing job creation?
One thing that we're finding is government policy is very important. Private sector can make a real difference. NGOs also have a role to play. And so one of the things that governments can help us with is to facilitate all of us being engaged. And we have partnerships with, for example, the Ethiopian government, the Ministry of Agriculture, around advanced maize seed adoption. So there are things that we can do together, oftentimes, that can be helpful. So that's one, is a government being open to and engaging many different players to make a difference. Of course, the situation is different in each country, and so it really depends on the local situation what should be focused on. Another area is investment in agriculture. It's important. The investment globally in agricultural research has drifted down over the last several decades, but that's so important. When we think about food security, particularly in Sub-Saharan Africa, there's also a connection to economic development, because so many smallholder farmers are below the subsistence level, and if we can help them get to be commercially viable, that allows economic development as well as significant improvements in poverty levels and et cetera. So agricultural development, investments in agriculture, whether it's infrastructure or agricultural research for their local environments, those investments from governments are very, very important.
Technology has played a major role in some of the key sectors of the Kenya economy. How can it be employed in agriculture, particularly in enhancing food security?
There are many ways. In fact, I think as we look at it, Africa is going to need to more than double their food production in the next 40 years or 35 years, really, to be able to feed what is expected to be the population. And in order to do that in a sustainable way, it's going to take science. It's going to take technology to help. But there are many ways they can play out. One example is we do work in advanced seed hybrids and varieties. I've talked to farmers who we've worked with that are starting to plant advanced hybrids rather than open pollinated varieties of corn. Just the difference in genetics, as well as some of the agronomic advice that comes with it, farmers can move from ½ a ton per hectare, maybe not quite enough to feed the family for a year, to easily 3 or 4 tons. I've talked to farmers in Ethiopia and Kenya that are getting 6 and 7 tons per hectare. So it's pretty dramatic improvements just by using technology that's already available. Dairy is an important market, and milk's a really important source of protein. But with the infrastructure, the roads, the cold chain, it's often difficult for smallholder dairy farmers to get the milk to cold storage in time if there's a big rainstorm, if something happens. And we've been working in our food ingredients business on an enzyme, a naturally occurring enzyme, that when added to raw milk can fight off bad bacteria for several hours, and then breaks down to what is normally in milk. So we're just ready to start the regulatory process on that as well. But this enzyme, once it's commercially available, should be affordable by smallholder dairy farmers and could make a huge difference. If they can if they can take the evening milk in with the morning milk, we could help them significantly reduce the amount of lost milk, which is lost revenue and lost nutrition. So those are just a few of the ways that science can make a difference.
The African Union declared 2014 the year of agriculture and food security, following the Maputo Declaration of 2003, where African countries decided to devote 10% of their national budgets towards agriculture. 11 years down the line, how are African countries faring, particularly sub-Saharan African countries?
So first of all, if you look at the road from here ahead, we still have a big challenge globally and in sub-Saharan Africa. And so we can't relax or rest a moment. At the same time, I have been really encouraged with the progress over the last several years around food security. First of all, food security is now on the top of mind and the real focus of a lot of discussions in a lot of very important places. So instead of being an afterthought, it's now getting a lot of attention. And that's good, because that brings people into the dialogue, it gets the ideas on the table. Certainly, our participation as part of that dialogue has helped us find new relationships that can help accelerate the implementation of some of the science that we bring to the market. So we are making progress. As it relates to investment in agriculture, the governments that I have followed, and I meet with governments whenever I'm traveling in the region, they're all working very hard toward that. Few have achieved it yet, but I think what encourages me is the sincere progress that's being made, and the open dialogue about how do we work together to put the things in place that each country really needs. So I'm encouraged, but we have a long